Let's talk about death. Everyone's favorite topic, right? Because memento mori, as they say, someday you will die. And when you do, the death dragons have your back, my friend. So it's Scorpio season. As of filming this, it is the perfect time to talk about death. But before I get into this lovely, lovely topic, I'm Hannah, for those of you who don't know me, and I help people to own their powers and step into the driver's seat of their own lives. Today, we're going to be doing that by talking about, honestly, one of my favorite topics, which is death. And I hope that doesn't make me sound like a total weirdo, but it is. It's a very fascinating topic that most of society cringes around and wants to avoid and not talk about. And meanwhile, I've had so many deaths of people in my life, so many near-death experiences and things like that, that I love the topic. I find it quite fascinating. But what's even cooler than death is that there are dragons for that. As I say, if there is any topic, there's a dragon for that, friends. There's always a dragon for everything, every topic imaginable, including death. And I think it's so useful to acknowledge these death dragons and learn how to work with them for the very reason that death is such a scary topic for so many people. So what inspired me to bring this up is there's been a lot of death and dying in my life recently. My uncle literally just died a few days ago after having a stroke and being in hospice for a few days. My dog is in the process of dying right now. I had another family member die just a few days ago. I have another family member in the process of dying. And all of these things have kind of brought the death dragons up into my awareness. And honestly, I heard about the death dragons a couple of years ago, but I've never worked with them. Even though there's been a lot of loss and death in my life, my whole life, I haven't really been drawn to work with them until this particular moment. So basically what happened was after they had found my uncle at his house, that he had had a stroke, and they brought him to the hospital, he was in critical care. My mom was telling me all of this, and out of her desperation, she's like, yeah, Hannah, I know maybe you're not into Christianity anymore. I don't know what you do. I don't know if you pray or anything. She's like, but whatever you do, if you could just send him good energy, she's like, do that. And something clicked in me in that moment. In that very moment, a death dragon appeared to me. It was like, yo, send me. I'll go help your uncle. And I didn't know at that time that my uncle was going to die. He was in critical care, yes, but he wasn't in hospice yet. But as soon as that death dragon appeared, I was like, oh shit, I think he's gonna die. But this dragon wants to help. So let's follow this and see where it goes. And so that's what I did. I just sent that death dragon to my uncle to help him through his week-long or so transition to the other side. And it was actually a very beautiful, moving experience. And I'm really grateful to the death dragon and to my uncle for allowing me to have that experience and now this knowledge and to be able to share it with all of you. So that being said, I could talk about this topic of death and why it's not really a big deal for me anymore for a very long time, but that's not a rabbit hole I'm going to go down today. I want to focus specifically on the death dragons. I do, however, intend to do a video on death just in general in the future. And if that's a topic you'd like to learn more about, just let me know in the comments. It's always good to have encouragement that people actually care about the stuff that I'm going to be talking about. So to the death dragons, my friend, where to find them. As with any dragon, they can be invoked, they can be summoned anywhere, anytime. Really, space doesn't exactly exist for them. So really, you can access them anywhere. That being said, they do tend to like to congregate in certain places. And those places would be what you would expect for a death dragon. So hospitals, specifically like hospice in that ward, cemeteries, funeral homes, around psychics, and specifically the mediums that are talking to, channeling the dead, working with the dead, around haunted houses and like areas where there are like remains buried, anywhere where there are ghosts, and that is very much a thing. And the death dragons, as I understand it, they kind of like go guard these places to make sure the ghosts like don't hurt themselves or hurt the livings, and like things don't get too out of hand. And if given the permission, they can help the ghosts transition to the higher realms. So what do they look like? Again, I always say it in these dragon videos, did. Every dragon is different. So really it could look like anything. You could have a death dragon that's like a pink, like purple butterfly, like super happy looking dragon. But in general, they've given me some parameters that they tend to kind of prescribe to. The one I saw looked heavy metal as shit. The one I saw was like this kind of skeleton dragon. It looked like a freaking skeleton, like a dragon skeleton. It was so cool. I loved it. It was awesome. Despite that, I didn't find it scary at all. It was very gentle, very loving, and just, yeah, wonderful experience all around. And they tell me that. They tell me that they can look skeletal very often. They like that form because it kind of like strips away the surface level stuff. It gets down right to the bones, quite literally, of what really matters. So they prefer that appearance a lot of the times. Also, they can be black a lot of the times, like similar in appearance to darkness dragons. It could be quite easy to confuse them with darkness dragons. They can take various black forms, shadowy forms, because death is like a big theme, like a shadow theme for the collective. So they will take the black form on to kind of reflect that shadow nature. On the other hand, they can totally look like light dragons as well. As we just talked about in the light darkness dragon ritual, which I will link up here, light and darkness dragons are two sides of the same coin. So similarly, these death dragons, they like the darkness dragons, they also like the light dragons, and they'll often take the form of a light dragon and maybe be like white or like golden and be very like welcoming in appearance, because that helps to calm down people who have just died and who are transitioning over. It helps to put people at ease and make them just kind of feel peaceful. So in many cases, they will adopt that guise. Finally, they can appear totally clear, like transparent, effervescent, and ghost-like. Special abilities of death dragons. 1, they ease the suffering of those that are dying and those near the dying, those that are mourning. 2, they have this like knack for helping people to integrate grief. Again, grief is often a very heavy shadow aspect for our culture. People like to push it down. It turns into anger and sadness. If you call upon the death dragons, they're masters of helping people to integrate that grief, to make it a part of you. Going off of that, the death dragons tell me they hold the frequency of acceptance. If you know about the stages of grief, like acceptance is that final stage that you want to be in. And the death dragons hold that frequency. They can help people that are alive grieving, or those that have transitioned over to the other side, just accept that fact and make peace with it and integrate it into their lives. They are also like masters at helping the livings fully transition over and smoothly transition over, as they did with my uncle, and I'm so grateful to them for that. It was fairly easy, painless transition from what they have told me. They're kind of like, they can kind of be like Ghostbusters, like the Ghostbusters, but nicer, they say, because they're not like capturing ghosts or anything. They will help ghosts transition and move on. If there are entities or fragments of like an energy, or ghosts themselves that are kind of like stuck and need help transitioning fully. They help with that. Going off of that, they help with soul loss and soul merge. So when trauma happens, even if it doesn't involve death in any way, shape, or form, each trauma that happens to you in your life, that is a form of death, they tell me. And they can actually help you call back the parts of your soul that get kind of broken off, cut off when trauma happens. So that's soul loss when that happens. When you're traumatized, part of your soul kind of breaks away to protect yourself. They can help you when you're ready to call that back in and find inner wholeness, inner peace. Finally, and my favorite one that I'm super pumped to share, mediumship. They will help you learn to talk to dead people. How cool. So that being said, let's talk about 6 benefits of working with the death dragons, which as usual, pretty much it falls into alignment with their special abilities and what I just talked about. Maybe we just get a little bit more specific on how you can work with them here. So 1, they are death doulas, essentially. They can help you feel less helpless when you have people around you that are going through the transition process, that are dying. Like they helped me with my uncle, and now they're helping me with my dog. So it can be very painful for us livings and those of us that have to stick around to watch our loved ones go through the dying process. And we just feel so helpless, right? We're like, oh, what can I do? And that often does bring people to just pray and just do whatever they feel like they can. So the death dragons want you to know if you're feeling helpless around the situation, call upon them. They can help you to not feel helpless. And they can actually do something to assist those that are dying transition over to the other side in a safe and healthy way. If you call upon a death dragon, you can know without a doubt that your loved one is going to make it. They're going to transition over. They're not going to get stuck and become a ghost. 2, as we discussed before, ghost busting and exorcism. So the death dragons can play exorcist if there is like a spirit inside of someone, or if there's just a spirit that's stuck. If you go to like old haunted houses and stuff like that, they can help those spirits pass on, and you can help them as well by a human, like a living human with free will. You can be a bridge in this process by like speaking with these spirits and asking if they want the death dragon's assistance to fully cross over. 3, processing grief. So again, whether or not you've actually lost someone to death, when you lose things, when you experience trauma, there's grief there, right? There is a mini death there. There's a sort of etheric kind of death that happens. So no matter what kind of death you're experiencing, whether it's in the literal sense or some other form, when you're experiencing grief, you can call upon the death dragons to help you process that grief, accept and integrate that grief, and they will do so. 4, transitions. Transitions too are a sort of death where you often have to give up something, or in many cases, many things. Whether it's even just ideas of what could have been or what should have been and stuff. When you're transitioning, whether you're moving somewhere physically, when you're moving out of a relationship into a new relationship, losing someone to death, whatever it is, when you're going through a transition process, you can call upon the death dragons. They'll kind of put you in this protective bubble. They will help you get through the transition and find a sort of sense of inner stability and peace as you do so. 5, also as mentioned, soul loss and soul retrieval, soul integration. So when you experience trauma of any kind, you can call upon the death dragons to reclaim those like lost parts of your soul. I wouldn't recommend doing this like immediately when the trauma happens. Usually it breaks away for a reason, right? But when you feel ready to integrate, when you're ready to do that shadow work, call upon the death dragons to help you retrieve the lost fragments of your soul. And they'll do so. And they also tell me specifically, they can really help if you suffer from dissociation or dissociative identity disorder. They can kind of help integrate. Remember, that's the key word, integration. So if you struggle with either of those things or something similar where you kind of just, the trauma so much you just are accustomed to leaving your body, stuff like that, they can help you ground and come back. And 6, they'll help you talk to dead people. Mediumship. If you're a psychic and you want to develop your mediumship, you want to go deeper with that, they're great mentors for this. Even if you're not and you just have lost someone and you would like to connect with them and receive signs from them, have communication with them, the death dragons can kind of ferry messages for you or bring them back from the other side to you. They can be a good go-between, a good bridge. So there you have it, friends. That's all about death dragons that I have today. If you've got any further questions, please let me know in the comments below. I take your feedback and your questions and your opinions very seriously, and it's likely I will make a video at some point or at least address your question in the comments if you ask it. So please do that. For those of you who didn't know, I actually do mediumship. So if you would like to connect with someone that's passed on over to the other side, I am happy to do that for you and assist you in learning how to do that yourself. I would recommend hitting me up via ownyourpowers.com for a psychic reading, and we can make that happen. And now, yay, I work with the death dragons, so it makes it so much more fun now. I love it. Yeah, so maybe the death dragons will visit too if you hit me up for that service. If you're watching this, chances are you've lost someone or a lot of someone's, and just know that my heart goes out to you. I know it sucks. I know it sucks. And the death dragons want you to know, they know it sucks too. It sucks being a human. It sucks experiencing this separation of like being alive and being dead and feeling like when someone dies that they're gone forever. But just know that they're not, and that you can still have a relationship with those on the other side. They're still very much here, and I hope that as you hear these words, you can kind of feel those loved ones within you. So as always, much love to you, my friends. Keep fighting the good fight and stay powerful.